Hi everyone, Chris Natzke here with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of the Champion tip of the week. Happy Election Day, everyone. It's a big day in our history, and I want you to know that this is not going to be a political video by any means, but what I wish for all of us is that we exercise our civic duty to go out and vote today and really do that with our conscience. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you today, a post that I did last year, almost at exactly the same time, kept coming into my consciousness. And it was initiated last year when I was watching television. Actually, I was listening to it while I was working out. And there was a gentleman named Admiral James Stavridis, and retired admiral. And he had just come out with a new book on leadership. And again, I was listening to it kind of in the background. But then he said something that totally stopped me in my tracks. He said, leadership is how we influence people. And he said, leadership is a big door, but it swings on the small hinge of character. Let me say that again. Leadership is a big door, but it swings on the small hinge of character. And man, I've been thinking about that quote on and off for the last year, and particularly during this time when we begin to choose our leaders and we have that responsibility. Now, both sides can argue the level of character that one has or the other, and that's not what we're going to talk about today. Because what I want to share with you is something I think super important, is regardless of who we choose as our leaders, one of the most important things we need to do is have that change if we want it to happen from a leadership standpoint and bringing character to leadership, because that's not necessarily what we always think we have, but we make that change beginning with us. And so during the last year, I've been thinking to myself time and again, what can I do to bring greater degrees of character to the leadership and also influence others to do the same? So that's what I want to talk to you about today. And I'm actually going to do it with an acronym here. One of my teachers and a man that I really revere as a great leader, Dr. Roger Teal, has a great way of teaching through acronyms. So I'm going to kind of, based on his influence and his inspiration, I'm going to do the same. Now, character is a big word. It's got 9 letters. So last year when I did this, I tried to cram them all into one video. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm actually going to take the first 5, and then next week I'm going to talk about the final 4. So if you bear with me for a moment. This isn't going as smoothly as I'd like, but let's see if I can make this happen. So I'm going to talk about these first 5, the first 5, and each one of these in the word character. And the first one is this. C stands for a commitment to serve. So one of the most important attributes I think in a leader is that commitment to serve. In fact, I love a quote that I use very often in my speaking by William Arthur Ward, and he says, "We must be silent before we can listen. We must listen before we can learn. We must learn before we can prepare. We must prepare before we can serve. And we must serve before we can lead." We must serve before we can lead. So as you look to up-level your leadership in this upcoming year, think about the various ways that you can serve. And importantly, not only serve others, which is incredibly important, but also make sure that you're serving yourself, meaning taking care of yourself, getting proper sleep, nutrition, rest, positive attitudes within your mind so that you can be at the very top of your game when leadership opportunities call. So that's the first, is commitment to serve. Number 2 is honor your word. Honor your word. Boy, that's a big one, isn't it? And there's a great article by a man named Michael Jenkins that I read years ago, and it was entitled Integrity. Without it, nothing works. And what he does is he creates this wonderful distinction between keeping your word and honoring your word. Now, all of us at our very best, we would be keeping our words each and every time we say anything or we make a commitment. But the fact of the matter is we tend to not do that all the time. In fact, some of us unfortunately make a habit of that. We arrive late for meetings and we cancel things at the last minute, or we don't show up for our families the way that we could. And so it's difficult also to keep our word because we've got a lot going on. But what Jenkins talks about is the importance of honoring your word. And that is keeping your word at the very best in every opportunity you can. But if you don't, make sure you acknowledge it. And then you take the steps to correct it. So many times we just let our integrity leak, where we say we're going to be someplace for, say, a 2 p.m. meeting. We show up at 2:05, and that become a habit. And those integrity leaks do a tremendous disservice to our leadership and really erode it. So remember, honor your word. Number next is this distinction of attainment, and it equals accomplishment plus becoming. I got this from a great author named Lanny Basham, and he wrote this book called Parenting Champions. And he said so many times what he would witness in the athletes he was coaching is their parents were just focused on the accomplishment of what their kids were doing. And I think as leaders, sometimes that's what we do, right? We just focus on the accomplishments of what we do or what the people we lead do. But he said attainment is different. He said attainment is being able to focus not only on the accomplishment, but the person we become on the road to that accomplishment. So I think great leaders, a great characteristic of a leader, is being able to guide someone toward accomplishing great things, but also helping them expand and grow into the best person they were designed to be. Who were they becoming? And in fact, I challenge you to think about the times that you had coaches or leaders in your life, and you accomplished things with them. But when you think back, you're probably most grateful for the person that you were able to become under their tutelage. So that's number 3, is the attainment equals accomplishment plus becoming. Next is great leaders, and a great characteristic of a leader is to rise to the occasion. You know, all the great leaders in our time, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Lincoln, they all rose to the occasion. Mother Teresa rose to the occasion and stood for truth when things weren't that easy to do, right? Regardless of what was going on in society and regardless of whether or not it was popular or not, they stood for something. And in fact, I'm going to read a quote from Dr. King right here. He says, "The ultimate measure of a man," and I would say and a woman, is not where he stands in the moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in the moments of challenge and controversy. So leaders are able to stand when things are tough and rise to the occasion. And where do we have an opportunity to do that today? And then finally, our second A is going to be admit when you're wrong and take accountability for it, and then do something about it. I think so many times in our lives, we are so afraid of making a mistake, and we think when we're in a leadership position, we have to be infallible, or when we do make mistakes, we don't admit it. And the fact of the matter is when we have that fallibility and we show it, it not only shows that we're human, but it creates a closeness to the people that we lead, and it gives them permission to take some risks and make some mistakes as well, and not hide things when things go wrong, but actually be honest and grow from the mistakes. For me, some of the greatest leaders I've ever been around are people that when they've made a mistake, they've owned up to it. They've owned up to it, and then they've made things better as a result. So there you have it, my friends. Long word, 9 letters, character. But what are the characteristics or the character qualities that you can show as being a leader? And today we went through 5 of the 9 I think that are most important. Commitment to serve, honor your word, attainment equals accomplishment plus becoming, rising to the occasion, and then finally admitting when you're wrong and doing something about it. So that's my message for you today, my friends. By the way, if you haven't gone out and vote, please go and do that now. Make sure that your voice is heard, and know that that is a great way for you to show your own leadership in your life and in our country. So this has been Chris Natzke with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching, and we'll see you next time on the Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week.